This is the second cervical vertebrae. It is commonly known as axis. तो second cervical vertebrae जिसको हम is called as axis. This second cervical vertebrae, this is its anterior end, and this is the posterior end. Anteriorly, ये क्या करते हैं? It articulates with the first cervical vertebrae, that is atlas, and posteriorly it articulates with the third cervical vertebrae. This second cervical vertebrae, that is the axis, it is again, let's say first cervical vertebrae, that is atlas, वो भी atypical है. Axis, it is again atypical vertebrae. This is the longest vertebrae, and the main characteristic feature of this second cervical vertebrae that it is called as the vertebra dentata. Vertebra, why it's called as vertebra dentata? It has got a well developed, this is the odontoid process or the dens. ठीक है? So this is the odontoid process that extends from the body, and it is called as vertebra dentata. So ये जो odontoid process जिसको dens भी बोलते हैं, so it extends from the body and this is about 2 centimeter long. Near about 2 centimeter long होता है ये. It is called as odontoid process or the dens, it extends from the body. ठीक है? This odontoid process, it has a dorsal surface which is concave. This is the dorsal surface. जो concave, it is concave. It has a rough pits which gives attachment to the odontoid ligament. ठीक है? While as the ventral surface of the odontoid process, that is, it is smooth, convex and articular. Smooth होता है, convex होता है और articular. So ये ventral surface हो गया इसका. This is the dorsal surface that is concave and rough which gives attachment to the odontoid ligament. ठीक है, इसको हम बोलते हैं odontoid process or the dens that extends from the body. It's nearly about 2 centimeter. So this is the axis of the cattle. So we are discussing the axis of the cattle. ठीक है, on either side of the odontoid process there are nearly flat. These are nearly flat articular surfaces. ये और ये articular surface और so they correspond to the anterior oblique processes. These correspond to the anterior oblique processes. This odontoid process ये कहाँ जाता है? It projects into the fovea dentis. That means fovea dentis of the जो इससे आगे जो vertebrae होगी that is the atlas. Fovea dentis of the atlas. तो उसमें प्रोजेक्ट करता है ये. This is the odontoid process. ठीक है. So this is the suprasupinous process. ये टूटी हुई है. This suprasupinous process, it projects a little bit forward over the neural ring. ठीक है. And when we move backwards, the height of the suprasupinous process it increases, plus the width of the suprasupinous process it also increases. ठीक है. Now coming to this is the infrasupinous process. This infrasupinous process, this is in the form of ridge and it terminates into a tubercle. ठीक है, ये terminate होती है in a tubercle and it is in the form of a ridge. So this is infrasupinous process. This is the suprasupinous process. These are the posterior oblique processes and the articular areas of these posterior oblique process they are facing downwards. ये और ये. ठीक है, posterior oblique processes. तो ये हो गया. This is the notch, posterior notch हो गया और यहाँ पे this is the anterior notch. Just behind the anterior notch there is a circular foramen. ये circular foramen है. That is known as intervertebral foramen. This is intervertebral foramen. ठीक है, this is intervertebral foramen and this is the transverse process. The transverse process, it is single and it is directed backwards. पीछे की तरफ होती है, directed backwards. ठीक है, this is the intervertebral foramen. This is the transverse process that is directed backwards. And here there is another foramen. You can see this is known as foramen transversarum. Here you can see this is the foramen transversarum. This foramen transversarum, it is in the form of a canal. It has both the anterior and posterior openings. आपको दिखाता हूँ, यहाँ से अगर हम इसको डालेंगे, ये तो this is, ये क्या है, this is the posterior opening of the foramen trans of this canal. This is the anterior opening and this is the foramen transversarium that is in the form of a canal. ठीक है, so this was all about the second cervical vertebrae, that is the axis of the cattle. Thank you very much.